All right, the recording is started. I hope you guys had a great break. I hope you guys are ready to jump back into school, because whether or not you're ready, you are anyway, and it's always less unpleasant if you are ready for it. I have a science fiction background behind me. This is from Ringworld by Larry Niven. I'd rather do that than show you my incredibly boring house. We had a flood about a year and a half ago, and I just finally finished with a lot of the flooring, so the flooring looks really nice. But since I'm out of my office, behind me, the bed is covered with all the stuff that is normally in shelves in my office, and I don't want to show that to you. Before we start into the lesson stuff that I have organized, I am wondering, whoever can, and I know some of you can only be in listen mode because some of you are working, and that's fine, but whoever can, I would like to hear from you as to what your background is, what your focus is. You know, if you are getting your degree in art education, or if you're getting your degree in 2D or game design, or whatever it is. And then kind of your experience as a professional artist so far. If you guys don't mind doing that, we'll just go around. I want to get just a feel for the kind of spread that we have. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. I'm Abby Brewer, and I'm studying art and design. I'm about 70% through with my degree. I'm interested. Oh.
What was that?
Sorry, I said I'm interested in obtaining my degree. More for the experience of selling art and just increasing my acumen in understanding art history and art culture. My husband's an oil painter, and I work a lot with his clients, and so I'm just trying to increase my education through this degree.
All right, excellent. Who's next? Thank you, Abby. Crystal?
I'll go next. I'm Crystal. Okay. I am in the graphic design program. Well, I hope to be soon. I just barely started out, so I'm very new to all this. I do some watercolors and I decorate cakes basically for my art, but hoping to get onto the computers.
What kind of cake decorator are you? Are you like a cake architect, or are you more of the formal traditional Wilton style?
Yeah, just like Wilton with all the different tips and stuff. I just barely started about a year ago, so I can't do like the structural cakes and all that cool stuff yet.
That's pretty cool. So you're basically a frosting sculptor. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't bake, so my husband bakes the cakes for me, and then I decorate them. So.
There are an awful lot of hyperactive children that are very happy for your work.
Yes, they really enjoy it.
All right, excellent. Who's next?
I can go next. So my name is Diana, and right now I'm doing a bachelor's degree in art and design, and I think I'm wanting to get the associate of graphic design. I'm also aiming for a minor in German studies, but not sure about that one yet. And I'm kind of looking to go into more like digital things, so like kind of like video game industry or like anything in that realm.
All right, very cool. Excellent. Who's next?
I can go next.
Okay, Avery.
I'm Avery. I'm also in art and design right now. I was going to do graphic design, but I'm a transfer student, and so it would have added on another 2 years to my degree, and I, not doing it, can graduate in the fall, and so I decided to not go with that. But right now I work at a print shop, and so I'm kind of getting a little bit of the graphic design experience with it, which I never would have thought a print shop would do that, but but yeah, I'm hoping to go into some kind of design. I'm not sure yet though what I want to do.
All right, excellent, very good. Who's next?
I can go next.
Okay, Camille.
So I'm Camille, or you can call me Cami. Either's good. And I am currently trying to do graphic design, and maybe a minor in business. I'm not sure yet, and I'm also not really sure what I want to do with it after school yet. So
Okay, all right, so you're getting started and you have a direction that you're going into.
yeah.
All right, great. Just for a reminder for the people that showed up a little bit after we started, we are recording this because I'm going to be putting it online so everybody who can't make it can watch it, and that this is going to be so exciting and entrancing for you that I have no doubt whatsoever that you will want to watch it several times on your own after the class is over as well. So we are recording it for posterity and your own future perusal. All right, who's next? Who else would like, or who's the next person to kind of introduce yourself, what your focus is on, and your professional experience? So
I can you
Isaiah.
guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Awesome.
it sounds like carnival music behind you, but yeah, we can hear you.
That's about right. We're driving. It was my son's birthday today, so I'm just driving home from that. So there's some
All
there
right.
might be a little bit of background noise right now, but yeah. So I'm in the art and design degree as well. Kind of similar situation as Avery, and where I had an opportunity. I was going to do graphic design, but it was going to set me back. But I'm a local artist here, and have wanted to maybe get into some teaching and some more professional jobs, and that degree has kind of set me back. So we're just jumping back into this to try to finish it up.
All right, great, excellent. Who's next? I think we still need to hear from Isabel and Andrew, if they're able to.
Yeah, I can go next.
Okay.
So I'm Isabel. I am majoring in graphic design. I'm completing the associates right now, and then I'm applying to the bachelor's or the BFA this semester. So I have probably about a year left in the graphic design world. Yeah, and then I've had a few professional experiences with graphic design and illustrating and stuff like that, but I'm hoping to get more into it this summer with internships and stuff. So.
All right, excellent, very good. Okay, now Andrew, you had to get on in a little bit different way than other people. If you're not able to introduce yourself, could you just say I'm here in the chat? And if you can introduce yourself, that would be excellent. All right, if you're able to figure it out later, that'd be excellent. I wanted to introduce myself a little bit and introduce what we're going to be doing in the class. Every semester I get somebody who is, usually it's a game designer or a digital designer who says, oh, I can do this 3D stuff at home. I don't need a kit or anything because I've got, the latest whatchamajigger and technical wizards with the all the digital design space. And what we're going to actually be doing in this class is real world physical stuff. We're going to be working with popsicle sticks, straws, glue guns, wire, a bunch of stuff like that. Now the class fee has gone towards buying a kit, and Jason, who is the Blue Maven, who's over the 3D design area, you will not believe what he's been able to put together for the small lab fee that you've paid in this kit. And I want you to know that national average for a class like this is $165 in a semester. And you may need to supplement what, with your own paints and with stuff you pick up outside and a couple different things like that. But you guys are getting a massive deal easily way over $100 less than the national average. So that's pretty fantastic. And I think a good part of that is that Jason has raised a lot of kids, so he knows how to do this. But we're working with stuff that you're familiar with if you ever attended first grade, and we are working with a three-dimensional space in the actual physical world. So we're not doing anything digital, other than photographing your work so you can turn it in, essentially. With the exception of Crystal, almost everybody, what they're talking about with their art is generally in the two-dimensional realm or digital space. And this class, at some point, you will be getting a headache just because of the stuff that we're going to be doing. And it's not because anything's wrong. It's just sometimes when you make new neural pathways and explore that neuroplasticity, it can hurt a little. So nobody's going to get a migraine or anything like that, but it's just like if you're taking a PE class and you play badminton for the first time, things are going to feel a little weird for a minute. As we go forward, there's a couple of things that I want you to know about right away. One is this is an online class. You're taking an online class because weirdly you live in the real world. And for whatever reason, you're not able to attend an actual physical in-person class. That implies a certain level of flexibility. So when you are looking at the due dates, when things are due and things like that, I want you to be aware that those are there primarily as an incentive to keep moving forward. Now, after due dates, anytime within like 2 days to a week, I'll go through and be grading stuff, and I'll put in zeros when things are past due. What that means is Canvas, I know that Canvas will send you a notification to let you know that something hasn't been turned in or you got a zero. And that's just to remind you because, gosh darn it, you live in the real world and things get away sometimes. So that's one thing, that due dates, we can always work with them. And if you feel that things are crowding a little bit too close together, we'll spread them out more. If you feel that that you need a little bit more of an incentive, we'll move the due dates closer. I mean, it just depends on how you guys are reacting to it. But generally, that's how I feel about it. I also, if you guys are willing to take the time, I do not mind regrading resubmissions. So say, for example, the annotated bibliography you did wasn't organized alphabetically and you didn't use MLA standard to write down your citations, and you forgot all the accessed on phrases. You won't get full points. I'll write a note saying this is what's missing. Then you can take some time over the next week or so to fiddle with it and get it to where it needs to and send it back, and then you'll get more points. And I feel it's better if you guys are willing to take the time to resubmit, work something over and resubmit it, then you deserve to get credit for the effort that you're making. And I have never, and sometimes people will tell me, hey, I've had an appointment, my car broke down, I chopped off the end of my finger or whatever it is. Actually, I haven't heard that excuse yet. I'm just kind of waiting for it to happen. I've chopped off the tips of 2 of my fingers over the years, and luckily they grew back, and that's because of clean living and lots of vegetables. But I think if you are going to be telling me that you can't make it for whatever reason, you're going out of your way to stay on top of stuff. I have never yet refused to extend an assignment deadline because somebody told me what was going on beforehand. I have refused to extend a deadline when I got a call, and this actually happened about 3 years ago. I was on campus. We were in the middle of the fall final. So it was a scheduled final that's been scheduled for the previous 4 months. Somebody had called me on my cell phone, and I just instinctively picked it up because of my reaction. And they were calling to tell me they could not make the final because they were in a bathroom in an airport in Newark, New Jersey. When something like that happens, or I also have had people write me angry emails 2 months after the end of the semester wondering why I hadn't given them a higher score when, you know, they had failed to turn in absolutely anything during the course of the term and never returned any of my own emails. Stuff like that I can't do an awful lot with. But if you're going to tell me, hey, I have to be out of town over this weekend, I don't have any sort of reception or internet access, can I turn stuff in 2 days after I get back? Hey, that's fine, because you're taking the time to let me know. All right. And again, if you don't get a perfect score on a quiz or another assignment, and you make the effort to work on it and resubmit it with improvements, I am more than happy to regrade. I think over the last 20 years, I have only regraded down maybe 3 or 4 times. And that was just because the person was a stinker and wasn't paying attention to what I wrote. I do want to tell you that a lot of phones, and I think it's Android phones, if you submit straight from your phone, if you submit a photo, instead of putting it into a PDF or a JPEG, it will automatically send it to me as an HEIC file. My computer will not open those. And so there'll be a 0 on the submission with a note saying, please resubmit as a PDF or JPEG. All that means, go to your laptop, do one of those file translators, and get it turned into a JPEG or a PDF and send it to me. You know, and then you'll get credit for it. So those are a couple of things that I thought were really important to talk about, and we'll probably visit them again as well. Did everybody get my email where I remind you about the textbook and give you 6 different ways of getting a hold of it? Did everybody get that? Okay, one of the ways to get it is to go to archive.net or .org. I can't remember which one. The correct one is in the email. And you can, if you sign up for that, you can access the first edition for free for an hour at a time, which is usually long enough to take the quiz. Now, the quiz, usually about 85% of the questions are things that you should know as an art student. But to verify that you're actually reading through the material in the textbook, there are always at least a couple ringer questions that are specific to the textbook. For example, what is the simplest definition of a line? In the textbook, and you know, for math, it's the shortest distance between 2 points. In the textbook, the correct answer actually relates to art production. You know, creating something that's artsy fartsy. And the one that deals with art production from the textbook is the correct answer, not the math definition. All right. I have had a couple people in here that were way smart, and they were doing like computer programming and stuff. And so their answers read like they were responding from their computer engineering textbooks. And so for the first couple of quizzes, they had a really hard time. And then they got a hold of the textbook, they went through, retook the quizzes, and they were doing great. So just be careful of that. A couple of the things that we're going to be talking about today is we're going to talk about the critical thinking in an art critiquing context. We're going to be touching on the necessity for work logs. We're going to talk a little bit about attendance. We're going to talk about the assignment that's due next Sunday, not this coming Sunday. And we're going to talk about the update on the kits, and other upcoming assignments. I noticed that several people have already started turning stuff in, and that's great. That's awesome. I appreciate that. But if you feel you need to resubmit something after we talk today, go ahead, resubmit it, and then I'll be grading like over the weekend. Before we get into all that, I wanted to introduce you to that exercise that I sent out with the email that's in the first, or it's actually the first exercise of the class, which is turning two-dimensional sheet of paper into a 3D model. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen here for just a sec. Give me a short half an hour, 45 minutes, so I can figure out how to do the screen share thing again. So okay, there we go. All right, did everybody find this website without any trouble? Did anybody find it? Can you guys see the website?
I found the
Okay.
website.
All right,
Yeah, no
excellent.
trouble with the website.
Okay, I'm really glad that this guy paid for a new domain name, because the original name was cortalsaltus.net and nobody could remember that. So the polyhedra makes a lot more sense. What I wanted you to do on this, what I asked you to do, was find a shape with at least 7 faces, print it out, cut it out, and tape it together. Has anybody been able to do that? All right.
Yeah,
I
I
was
did it.
If you,
find out.
okay, that's great. Okay, Crystal, actually, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to hold that up and tell us about it a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Mhm.
The shape that I picked, oh, great, I love ads. Okay, the shape I picked is called the truncated octahedron. Truncation means cutting, and a truncated octahedron is an 8-sided platonic solid with basically the corners cut off. And if we look at, this is what the printout looks like. Can everybody see this? And when I'm sharing screens like this, I can't see you. So if somebody can say out loud, yes, I see it, that would really be
Yes.
nice. Okay, excellent. So this is what I printed out. And it took just a few minutes to cut it out. And I have it here, and I wanted to show you this. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. And let me know if you can see this, because I have to put it in front of my shirt because of the fake background. Okay, so this is the shape that I cut out. And I folded it, and I'm starting to tape it together. And I want you to see what is happening. Okay, it's flat. See how it's starting to develop form? Can you see that? What is happening to the shape, that flat shape?
It's becoming 3D.
Yeah, it's becoming 3-dimensional. Exactly. And it's the exact same shape, same lines, everything that was on the very flat printer paper that was printed out. The difference is I've removed extra stuff, I folded it, and I'm kind of distorting it into an extra dimension. Now, Crystal, could you hold up your shape? All right. Do you remember, what's the name of that?
It's a cube octahedron. So it's made
All
of
right, excellent.
triangles and squares.
All
all the
right,
way
great.
around.
What was one of your observations as you were putting it together? Was there anything that happened as you were doing that kind of clicked and made you realize what was going on? Was there, any
Kind
particular
of.
moment?
Yeah, I started from the two ends and I was trying to tape from the inside and I was realizing it was like getting harder and harder because I was trying to like go in between. And so I had to go from the outside, but it was probably about halfway when it was like curled up like that. When it was about to be a cube octahedron instead of flat.
Well, I think that's kind of interesting. There's something that is very specific that's going on as you're putting it together. You get to a point where you realize you can't go any further without doing different things, but it goes. There's almost a click when you realize that it is definitely now a three-dimensional form, and it's a completed three-dimensional form. What other shapes?
Yeah, there's definitely.
What's that?
Oh, there's just definitely that one point where you're talking about where it's suddenly 3D.
All right, that's great. This is a simple exercise. I did not pick on Crystal. I didn't talk to her beforehand. She just happened to be the first one to show that she had done the shape. But I want everybody to be able to go through that experience. And for your for attendance for this week, what you'll need to do is include an image of that shape as well, in addition to the mentioning some of the things that you've learned in the class. But I wanted you to do that right at the beginning of the class, and I would like everybody to do that sometime before Sunday, before you turn in your attendance thing, because I want you to have that first initial experience with converting something from the two-dimensional space into the three-dimensional space. And the reason why I want you to do something with at least 7 sides is because there are some really, really simple shapes that I don't want you to mess with them. I want you to do something that is not necessarily too much of a challenge, but it's a lot more than just making a cube, or at least a little bit more than making a cube. How many other people were able to get this done by today?
I got it done
Right,
too.
Diana? Okay, excellent. Very good. And again, anybody who didn't get it done, just get it done before the weekend, and you'll include a photo in your submission for attendance. And that's just fine. Or at least, I don't know. Yeah, I think a photo in the attendance will be great, and you can say what shape it is in that first little assignment. Let's see. And I'll share that with you. Give me another short half an hour here while I load this up. Okay. That we're talking about the prep for the first day of class. And that going to polyhedra.net and figuring that out and making that shape with at least 7 faces, I think that's really important just as an introduction to what we're going to be doing in this class. We already talked about going to archive.org. Are any of you guys buying the book and having it sent? Because you can go to the Facebook thing. You can use that archive.org. You can also rent it from Amazon. They have a textbook rental thing that you can do. It doesn't matter which route you want to go, but it is vital that you have access to the information in that book for your quizzes, because we do talk about it. And the record so far for buying the cheapest copy, it was, and I'm not lying, it was $4.99, including shipping. The person found it on eBay, which I thought was absolutely amazing.
Another good website for the textbooks would be thriftbooks.com. I got mine for $6.
Thriftbooks.com. Okay, thrift books. Okay, I will email that to people too. That is excellent to know. And you got it for $6. Was that including shipping?
Yep, including shipping.
That is awesome. That is amazing. All right, excellent. I will email that to everybody as well. You know, as we move forward in the class too, each week before we meet, I really like you guys to like everybody to just develop the habit of looking at what is up. You know, I will be posting new modules once or twice a week until all of them are online. I don't want to overwhelm you at the beginning, and I'm also trying to get a feel from you of what things I might need to change. And what I need you to do is just commit yourself to checking Canvas as often as you can, and not every day necessarily, but at least once or twice a week, just to see what's going on and to remind yourself of what's due. One recurring nightmare I have is something that actually happened when I started going to school at BYU. I think it was my third semester there. I had signed up for, well, I'll just tell you, they used to send notices out with your final schedule as to when you were going to be doing your finals, and you would get it in your student mailbox, and it was a physical mail. This is long enough ago that it was physical mail. And when I opened that up, my heart sank and I wanted to throw up because I had completely forgotten I had signed up for a computer programming class, and the final was 3 days away, and I couldn't remember anything in the class because I had never gone to it. I completely forgot it. I don't want that to happen to any of you. So it's important to go over Canvas. And if you guys are telling me that we need to do more or less or whatever, do something different, I will do my best to make those kinds of changes in Canvas, whatever I can do that would accommodate that. There are some things that we have to have because of the course requirements. Other things are more flexible. And I want this to be reflective of what you guys are interested in and what you guys are going to be doing, as opposed to just force you to do a lot of stuff that just is not going to be workable. So please look at Canvas and let me know how things are. Be mindful of when the assignments are due and coming up. And again, if you need extensions or whatever, let me know as soon as possible. Okay, it just dawned on me, I was fascinated listening to you guys' stories, and I totally forgot about introducing myself. I have been doing stained glass for about 40 years. I do flat glass, but I also do sculptural stained glass. And I don't know if anybody's looked me up on the internet, done a background check or whatever, but there's artwork that you can find that I've done. And you will recognize a lot of math and mathematical shapes. My initial training was in engineering and mathematics, and I made the natural shift to art from architecture. I've been doing stained glass long enough that I have screwed up in every possible conceivable way, which means that I am a resource that several companies have used to solve problems and fix things. Most of the historical tabernacles up and down the Wasatch Front, I've had a hand in repairing. If you go to the church's art museum, all the stained glass panels in there, I've done curation work on, as well as at the BYU Art Museum. And I worked with Brian Christensen at BYU to set up the hot shop there. So for glass blowing too. I do a lot of glass fusing. I do a lot of stuff like that, painting, things like that. I also do watercolor. But in all of this with art, all of us appropriate. Appropriate is a really nice and sanitized word that means steal. That's one of the things we do as an artist. But I think it's most effective if you actually find out what the context is for the things that you're doing. So as I was developing imagery and exploring ideas, I really delved into finding context. And I was also raised with 3 Navajo brothers and a Shoshone sister. So tying that all up together, my BFA project was designing and building stained glass windows for a Navajo cathedral, an imaginary Navajo cathedral. And then my MFA was a comparison between Joseph Smith and Madame Blavatsky, and then a real world application of the process demonstrated through artwork showing exploration of different religious traditions around the world. With all that, I received, I've also become a pluralist chaplain because of my wanting to find context for things. And I was invited and given a fellowship to study art and philosophy in Iran for a while, about 6-7 years ago, which was incredibly cool. Iranians are very different than what anybody would expect. 99% of all Iranians are super, super, super nice, incredibly nice people. And I will tell you, if you are in downtown Tehran and you want to go across the street, I think that I don't understand why there's any traffic lights or paint on the road because nobody pays attention to them. But if you want to get across the street and you would like your limbs intact, the best way to do that is to find a woman over 60. There's a lot of women over 60 wearing their chodas, and they have these little lemonade or sandwich stands or carts. You tell her you want to cross the street, and she will just go blindly out into traffic. Everybody stops, nobody honks, nobody gets upset. They let grandma do whatever the heck she wants, and she'll kind of quietly wave you past. And then when you're on the other side, she will slowly walk up to the curb, and everybody goes again. It's just very, very different than what our popular media expresses. And those are the kinds of things I do. So I do a lot of 2-dimensional work as well as a lot of 3-dimensional work. And if you'd like to look at some of my 3D stuff, look up my name, look up the artwork, and see what you find. A lot of kind of cross-cultural exploration. And I think as we are looking into art, all of us are going to appropriate, all of us borrow images and symbols and ideas from other people. I think if we find the context and give respect where it's due, that can't do anything other than make our own art more powerful and expand our understanding of the greater world around us. That's introduction to me. I also, you have a lot of contact information, how to get to me. If you need, you can email me, or if you need to get a hold of me a little bit sooner, you can also text me. I have my cell phone number there. If you're going to text me, please make sure you include your name and the class that you're in, because otherwise I will be completely baffled and confused. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or anything, but my brain is kind of like a pachinko machine, or hyperactive penguin on a pogo stick. It just bounces all over the place. So if I start talking about something without context, it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's because you missed all that previous conversation I had behind my ears and didn't say out loud. So it's entirely your fault. No, but if you get lost, let me know, and I will go back. I'll circle back around and explain, because sometimes I don't realize that what I was speaking does not make it out past my teeth. Now, before we get into the first real project, which is talking about sculpture-based photography, we're going to talk about a little bit about it tonight, and I'll introduce it. And then on Tuesday next week, we're going to talk more about some of the samples, the examples that you saw, and some of the artist work that you saw in the background, and talk more about some of the things that you do, or that you did in your own thing. But before we do that, I wanted to talk about this idea of artistic critique. What is the first thing you think of when you hear critique or critic or critical? Is it a positive or negative reaction that you have?
I've taken a lot of art classes, and so my view on it is positive. But before taking all the art classes, it was more negative.
Why is it negative?
It just always feels like critiquing is like telling you what you did wrong, which
Yeah,
it is. But like with art, it's helping you improve more than just telling you you're not doing good.
well, I think you hit the nail on the head. That is excellent example. Most of us react, our initial reaction is going to be negative because we aren't as high-minded as Avery. But the reality is that critique, critic, and critical does not mean or doesn't need to be cutting or negative at all. It should not be something that only points out faults or potential faults. Critical does not mean nasty, negative, or sarcastic or whatever. It actually means intentional. So if we are going to be applying ourselves to critical thinking, what we're talking about is thinking on purpose. And if we're talking about artistic critique, what we're doing is we're describing with purpose. We're using precise language to discuss the object that we're encountering. And that should not be a negative thing. And when we say things like, "Oh, you need to learn to take criticism better," the implication with that phrase is that criticism is a negative thing. And I will grant you that 99% of the time when we hear the word criticism, or when people use the word criticism, we are talking in a negative context. We're addressing it in a bad context. And I really hope that you don't get locked into thinking like that, because in my mind, critical thinking relates entirely to intentional thinking, thinking with purpose. And I want to take you through, I want to share an example with you, and then I want to take you through, oh, I probably have to change this link here, huh? Yeah, that link looks bad. I want to take you through the 4 steps that we're going to be using as we apply artistic critique to things. And by the end of this class, hopefully, by the end of the course, hopefully you'll be comfortable enough with it. You'll realize it can apply to absolutely everything, whether you work as a mortician or a nurse or a doctor or a surgeon or an astronaut, or if you're a farmer or you teach 5-year-olds. It shouldn't matter. Artistic critique, this process of intentional thinking, applies to absolutely everything. And I would like to ask you a question to think about before I go to the next page. Would you rather hear when somebody says to you something, when you say, "Hey, how do you like this?" If somebody says to you, "That's nice," that's one option. Or would you rather hear, it never ceases to amaze me how much depth you get when you're doing one of these digital paintings, because this is, the 2-dimensional screen. I love the way that you apply shading and color in your process, because it makes me feel like this image is coming alive. You're not spilling everything out for me, so I don't have to think. You're giving me an opportunity to finish some of these shapes, and because of that, I feel like I'm part of the process of developing the finished artwork. And I really like how you bring me in to the image. Would you rather hear that about something you've done, or would you rather hear, "Oh, that's pretty"?
Definitely the second option.
The biggest difference, they both mean the exact same thing. The biggest difference is I'm trying to use precise language to tell you why I think it's pretty without saying that it's pretty. Now, here are the 4 tools of artistic critique. As we go through them, I want you to think about what is the difference between each tool, and then also what is going on between this first tool and the 4th tool, which is evaluation. Okay. The first one is description. I'm going to just grab an object that I have nearby. Hopefully you guys can see this. Can you see this? All right. This is, I'll tell you what it is. It is my Pilot rollerball pen. And I'm going to use the tools of artistic critique to just do a short critical analysis of the pen. Okay. The first tool is describe. When you describe, you are just talking about, you're trying to remove as much of your ego as you can, but you're trying to just to talk about the object and share the things that you see about it. The way that this object interacts with our shared environment and the way that this object comes into the perceived environment. Okay. So for example, for this, it's color-wise, it's mostly black. It has some silver. It has a silver band right here. It has some clear right here, but for the most part, it's black with the company's logo in silver. It looks like it's about 5.5, 6 inches long. It looks like in diameter-wise, it's about 3/8 of an inch. It has a cap that actually it has this hollow cylindrical object that comes off. For the most part, it is a cylindrical shape. It has this little flange there that comes out and runs parallel to the length of the object for about 2 inches or so. And it is, so it's not just one object, it actually separates into 2 objects that snap together. Okay, so I'm doing my best to remove myself from what I think it is and just describe the physical attributes. Now, for maybe the thing that you're looking at that you're applying description to might be something that also encompasses sound. Maybe there's more texture to it. The texture on this is very smooth. Maybe it encompasses weight as well. The weight of this is negligible. If it was really heavy, then I think that would be important to share with you. But all I'm doing is just trying to enunciate my observations about the attributes of this object. And that's pretty much it. Okay. Now, the next step is analysis. And this is where you start extrapolating, use your imagination to talk about how the object was built. From the way that this object feels, how light it feels like it's made out of plastic, and I can see very faint mold lines in some areas. So I think it was cast somehow in a process. It feels to me like it's made out of several different components. It has that cap that separates off. I also noticed that it can make a mark after the cap is removed. So it feels like it's engineered a little bit with metal parts as well. I don't know exactly how they were put together, but it feels like the whole thing was assembled from lots of different components. What is different between analysis and description?
For the analysis,
speculating. Oh, okay. I think you're like speculating on things that you can guess, but you don't actually you haven't seen it for yourself.
All right, good, excellent. And Diana, what were you saying?
really, I was saying that with description, you're just describing pure fact, so only what you see. And then with analysis, you're kind of putting your own bias into it a little bit. So you're kind of logically thinking and making assumptions or just making educated guesses about how it was made instead of just what it is.
Yeah, that's both of you are exactly right. I'm using a little bit of my imagination to extrapolate and kind of guess how it was put together. So yes, absolutely. And the difference between description and analysis is that I'm using my imagination and analysis, where in description, I'm trying to pull back and remove from myself as much of my biases as I can, just to talk about it as an object. Now, the third step is interpretation. This is where I am trying to imagine the why. What is this object used for? Is it designed to have a purpose? Is it designed to be purely aesthetic? It feels to me like this object is designed to be held. It's designed to be used. The fact that when you press the end against something, material flows out and you can actually generate a line leads me to believe that whoever created this intended for it to be used to create marks. So it feels like it's light enough to be comfortable in the hand. It feels like it's designed to be held in the hand. It's the right shape and size. And it feels to me like it's designed to be used to be making marks. So for interpretation, I'm trying to figure out the why. Why is this the way it is? Interpretation, you can also reflect on, well, I notice that there's a logo in the handle, and there's a logo in the rim of this other part that separates out. The logo invites you to go back, return to the company, perhaps to buy more stuff. It looks to me like it's not only a useful practical object, but it's also designed to be comfortable and function as ongoing advertising for the company. Perhaps the worldview of the individual who wrote it, they work for somebody who is, or an entity where it's important that they create things that people consume or get somehow. So with interpretation, what's the difference between interpretation and analysis and description? What am I doing that I wasn't doing earlier? With description, I'm just talking about the object. With analysis, I'm trying to imagine how the object was made. With interpretation, now I'm trying to guess at things like the worldview of the originator of the object, how it fits into the culture I'm a part of, maybe the purpose behind the object. What's the intent of the people who constructed it, or where it came from? What's the purpose? The difference is I'm injecting even more of my imagination and speculating even more about the object. Now the fourth tool, or the fourth step, is the evaluation. Now this object, if I'm holding this object, I can take the cap off. I can, when it's not invisible up here, I can use it to write with. It is comfortable to hold, and it reminds me where I like this pen enough. It reminds me with that logo there where I can go to get more of them. So my judgment of it is that it is successful. It is successful as a practical tool that's designed to be used easily. It's not very successful if it was supposed to be a bridge parallel, to allow you to go across the Colorado River. It's horrible. But for the object that it is very successful. That is entirely my own speculation and imagination. You see what we're doing with each of the steps? We're applying more and more of our own personality, our own ego, our own worldview and speculation on the object that we're examining. Now, in another context, say, for example, you're an editor and you are going through and trying to edit a paper for submission in some sort of a journal or magazine. You could apply this by looking at the article and describing it exactly the way it is. That's where you would start looking at things like grammar and spelling, word placement, how big the paragraphs are, how easy it is to read, what it looks like on the screen. Then your analysis is you start thinking about, well, where is this author coming from? Why does the author think that we can publish this in our magazine? What's the correlation there? What's the subject matter? Why is the author writing, or how is the author constructing this? Do they know what they're doing? The why is this going to be an advertisement for the author's other work? Are they helping us in our magazine by demonstrating their own skill set? Is this going to be appropriate for publication? And then shifting to evaluation, that's where we start thinking, well, I think it might be appropriate. I enjoy the article. It's entertaining. I think it's successful. So this kind of process, this four-part process of evaluation, leading to a final evaluation of something, is something that we can apply intentional thinking to, be precise in our language, and it really helps us to appreciate what is before us, for one thing, but also help us to appreciate our relationship to what is before us. And it helps us to justify our own evaluation of it. How many times have you walked into a gallery and looked at a painting and were revolted and you can't really know why? You don't understand why. Or conversely, you came into a gallery, you saw something you really enjoyed, but you couldn't put words as to why you enjoyed it. As you get used to applying this 4-step process, you will get better and better and better, not just at articulating why you like or dislike something, but also you'll get better at intellectually exploring it. And a lot of the times you will discover that your opinion changes about it, for better or worse, when you start understanding and appreciating what's going on. At the very least, you may appreciate what the artist went through to create that, whatever it is. And then when you apply this to your own work, it will give you, who's your worst critic? Who's always your worst critic? You are. And by applying this intentional thinking model to your own work, instead of feeling like you are such a loser for not being successful and doing this thing you've never done before and you knocked it out of the park in your first try, hopefully you'll realize that you went through a lot. You'll recognize the effort you put into it. You'll recognize the things that you learned as you were doing it. And you will realize that all the things that you thought were wrong about it most likely aren't. Maybe you do need to tweak it a little bit, but you can do that from a proactive space where it's the best thing for the art, as opposed to just telling yourself it's not good enough because you're your own worst critic. So this is important for a number of different reasons. And for the next month or so, every time we meet, I will go over those 4 things over and over and over again until you guys are sick to your stomach every time we talk about it. But after that, we won't have to go over it again because you guys will be so comfortable with it that you'll know what we're talking about without even having to mention it very long. One of the things we will do before the end of the term is everybody is going to record about a 3-minute critique of one of their own works that they made during this semester and one of the works of one of the other students that was made for this semester. And so you will notice as we go on that each of the modules, when you create work, there is a discussion board that you will post your stuff on. Sometimes you'll have to comment about other students, sometimes you don't. That is there primarily so that you can look at other students' artwork and find something to do your artistic critique on. Now, we have about half an hour left. Does anybody have any questions about that process that I just went through? All righty, I'm going to do another screen share here. I'm not going to open a lot of these things. I'm just going to tell you about them. This global intercultural designation is an important thing. We would like to, at some point in the future, make some of the art classes so that they do qualify for a global intercultural designation. That is one of the cords that you can get when you graduate from UVU. And to that end, we are going to be looking at the body of artists that we look at is not the standard traditional canon of artists that you find in most of your art classes. Jason has very carefully picked several artists that meet our needs for this class, but also are drawn from around the world. They're international artists from as many countries as we could pull stuff from. And hopefully it'll introduce you to artists that you most likely have not seen very much work of before. And hopefully it will also help you to use or help you to appreciate artwork that comes from different cultural contexts. So we just talked about tools of artistic critique. Every assignment, there is going to be a work log that's necessary. On this first one, if we scroll down here, and look at the sculpture-based photography assignment. In the sculpture-based photography component that you turn in, there is also a component where you take a picture of your work log. I want to talk to you about it. We may remove that because you also have to turn in the work log separately here. But for each of the module, you will have a separate work log that you will need to turn in. And some of the modules are may only take you an hour and a half, and there may be like 2 or 3 of those in 1 week. Some of them may take you 10, 12, 14 hours. Whatever the module is, when there's a work log associated with it, you turn in the work log for the work only associated with that particular module. Even if you worked on other things, it's only for that particular module. And when we look at the work log, I have actually gotten these. I did mention at one point that it is not appropriate to send me a photo of notes scribbled down on the back of a coffee stained envelope. The work logs, I have a sample that I will find here and show you really quick. If you look at this sample, what I have here is a day with the date, the time. This is 8 to 9:30 p.m. This time is 6:45 to 9:35. So it has the times written here, and the activity that I did for this hour and a half. I read intro and the chapters, and I took the quiz, and the time was an hour and a half. Here I spent almost 3 hours researching and writing my artist review. I wrote the time down there. Here on this day, I spent a couple hours constructing a house and taking photos of it. On this one, I spent an hour and a half taking more pictures of the house, taking them around to different sites and photographing it. And then, I did some more here, did some more here. And then at the very end, I have a total amount of hours spent for this module. I don't think you need to be super precise. You don't have to give me the number of seconds that you have spent on the module, but something like this within 15 minutes is great. And this is something that is not something that I just pulled out of my ear to have you do. This is actually something that we are mandated to require of you from the department leadership. Can anybody guess why it might be important to keep work logs?
I feel like it makes you value your time a little more, just like realizing how long you spend on a particular thing.
Yeah, that is the primary reason. That is absolutely right. It is to help you recognize how much time you're actually putting into things. In my work as a stained glass designer and consultant and building stained glass windows and stuff, I have to know how long, I have to keep track of how long I work on a project so I know how much to charge somebody. And as you guys move forward, that's, if you're doing your own thing on selling stuff to in a gallery to people that you've never met, or if you're doing commission work, it's important to know how long it takes you to do stuff, how much energy you put into it, so you know where your prices should be. What is the value of your time? And I think it also helps keep track of other things. Like some of these projects, you may get done in 15 minutes, and I may suggest it needs to take 5 hours. This is an opportunity to ask yourself, well, if it only took me 15 minutes, what am I missing? And a lot of the times, well, most of the time, there's a specific reason for spending a minimum amount of time on a project. We are growing new neural pathways. We are exploring the process of neuroplasticity in this. And if you are focused on something and can sustain that focus for longer than 45 minutes and revisit it periodically, that sustained and revisited focus will help you to develop new and stronger neural pathways in whatever subject you're studying. This works for learning languages, to learning new principles, to developing a new way of looking at the world. I mean, it works for a lot of different things. So if I tell you in the project where you're supposed to be making panels of texture and color, that each one should take you 45 minutes. When you get done with the first one after 7 minutes, keep adding to it, keep fiddling with it, keep doing it, keep working on it until you get to the 45-minute mark. And then that will, a lot of the times, that will help develop those pathways, but also a lot of the times it will help you to adjust how you look at the process. And it will be a lot more successful. Another thing I wanted to talk about was attendance. Now, I really appreciate the people that were able to get on this call on in person. I am very grateful for that. I was telling Diana that she was going to have to invent a couple different voices and pretend to be several different people when she was the only one on, because otherwise it just gets super boring. Luckily, you guys showed up and you saved her, so thank you very much. But as we move forward, I want you to appreciate that if you can't make the Teams call, you can still watch the recording on our YouTube channel. And I will share that with everybody just as soon as I can upload the video onto our YouTube channel. And what you will need to do to get credit for attendance is watch the video or attend live and then submit 5 things that you learned during the course of our conversation or during the lecture or during the recording. There might be some other things I might tell you. You can earn an extra credit point watching this short video or that, or commenting about other things. So it's not going to be all exactly the same. Like for this first week, to get those all 5 points, you will also need to submit an image of the shape that you made. You know, you won't have to do that any other time, but you will need to do that for this week. So it's going to vary a little bit, but for the most part, after you go through the Teams meeting, or after you watch the video, or after you decide you want to put this video into your permanent collection and watch it over and over again for the rest of your life, depending on how attached you are to it. When you do that and submit the 5 things that you learned, you will get credit either way, either attending live or not. But I will say that over the last several years I've been doing this, almost without exception, the people that have been attending the Teams meetings as often as possible are also the kind of people that generally do everything that they need to get an A. And it's just an interesting correlation. Something else that I need to mention, though, too, is one of the downsides. There is a lot of flexibility in taking things online. There are a couple downsides, too. I used to get emails from people being confused about the assignments, and I couldn't understand why until Jason pointed out that a lot of people will just go straight to the assignment page and bypass the rest of the material in the module. That's why the modules are locked, so that you have to go through each page to get to the next page. And you can't do the assignment until you watch, at least open and look at all the other pages before the assignment. Because I found that by doing that, it cuts out about 85% of the questions people have. It gives you context for what we're doing, and it helps you understand what we're doing. Another thing that I've noticed is if people are paying attention to what they read and read the emails that I send out, the questions that they give me are a lot more targeted, and usually they're precise enough that I can add them into the next week's lecture so that everybody gets the answer. And I really appreciate that, because UVU students are not dumb people. You guys are brilliant. Almost all of you have jobs in addition to school. You practice the same kind of thing that Einstein did, which is called slow motion multitasking, where your brains demonstrate a significant level of neuroplasticity just because you're working on so many different projects at once, going from project to project and allowing each thing that you study to inform the other things that you do. And that kind of navigation of your time and your energy is really remarkable. So when you apply yourself in the same way to this course, I don't think you can get out of the fact that you're going to find the same kind of success. But I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. I wanted, when you go to the next project, And then the next project, or I guess the first real project, the first real module in this, you're going to be building houses out of, oh, I'm sorry, my computer cables just jumped out, and the Velcro that I have holding them in place attached itself to my sock, so I felt I was being attacked. But as you go on this next project, I'm going to talk about that kind of briefly, and then we'll talk about it more next week as well. What we are doing is not exploring house building. We're exploring the use of photography in a sculptural context. And I will show you the primary material to use. And on the assignment description, I have also just added 3 videos that I found that help to kind of open up different possibilities for construction of the houses. I wanted to share with you this video, this website, and you have a link to it in the module. Let's see, hold on just a second here. All right, what you are going to be constructing is a house that is 6 inches on the longest dimension. And this house needs to be constructed well enough that it can withstand the rigors of moving it around and photographing it in many different places, because that's what you'll need to do. You'll need to photograph it from different points of view, different times of day, different lighting conditions, because what you're doing is turning in 5 examples of how photography can affect the presentation of an object that you've made. And the object that you're making is a house. And I don't expect you to make something that looks exactly like what this person is doing, but I wanted you to look at this and explore this website so you can see the different kinds of things that are possible. And I'll share with you really quickly the 3 different videos. Let's see. I'm not gonna play the videos. I just want to show them to you. And again, the links are in the updated module project description. The houses need to demonstrate workmanship and strength, but they also need to demonstrate the fact that you guys are art students. I have had some pretty poorly constructed objects that people have made. I want this to be something that you're not disgusted by, that you enjoy making, and that is interesting to photograph. So this first video shows how to make this. And I don't want anybody to copy any of these things that you've seen. I want you to use it as inspiration for building. And you're going to be using, this person used, it looks like bookboard. I expect you to use something flimsier like file folders. And I just grabbed a couple that I'll show up in just a second. The reason I want you to look at this is to, like I said, get inspiration and ideas for making a house. The reason why I like this particular house is because the person walks through how to build it, but also it becomes very interesting to photograph. I mean, if you have a singular light source back here, off to the above the play arrow, you're going to get some really interesting shadows from that fence across the front porch. With plastic being used in the window spaces, if you have light on the other side or you put your camera right up next to it, you're going to get some interesting effects with the clarity or the translucency of the plastic in the windows. Now, this is not a masterwork house, but this is well constructed enough that you can use it for multiple photos. Maybe you're going to take 10 or 12 and you'll save the best 5, but it's also demonstrates some really interesting uses of engineering. This, instead of just a triangle on a square for the side, you have a rectangle for the wall with a triangle on top of it, and another triangle extending out over the porch. It makes for an interesting shape. The next video I want to show you demonstrates another one as well. Okay, and this one is made with file folders, like I mentioned. But you know, look at the shape of this house and what the person has done. This person has created a house that is very three-dimensional and has some really fascinating shapes in it. Like it has these structures here that, let's see if we can. It has some interesting structures that cast interesting shadows. It has an interesting shape to the front. They've done one color around the window and another color closer to the window with horizontal bands in it. The door has some interesting surrounds. The way that they've used visual texture in this makes it a very interesting structure to photograph. And it's just kind of fun to look at. Then the third video I want to share with you, again, I don't want anybody to copy any of this. I just want you to use it as inspiration. And I give you some ideas of how you can find patterns to go off of. I'm sorry, I did not plan on an ad for this. These get kind of irritating to me. Oh well. Okay. This one walks through a pattern and construction of a house as well. This is also another simple house. Again, you have a door, you have windows. What is interesting about this to me is you could do different things. Like if this is what you want to make, you could do different things to generate a texture on here that maybe looks like brick. You could do things like gluing grass or sticks or even aluminum foil on the roof to give different effects. Taking aluminum foil, crumpling it up, smoothing it out again would make, and then gluing that new texture onto the roof would make for a very interesting thing to with the photographing. And with these windows, you can kind of see that they cut the window areas out so you can see into the body of the house. Maybe in the structure that you make, you have windows on opposite sides so you can see all the way through the house. Maybe in the window that you make, you set your cell phone inside of the house. You have it so you can open the door and take a picture with your cell phone inside the house, so it looks like you're a very tiny person getting ready to leave the house. You know, I want you to consider these kinds of things, keeping in mind we're talking about workmanship and sturdy construction. We're also talking about what makes it interesting to photograph. And there's lots of other examples of homes. Again, I don't want you to copy anything, but I do want you to use it for inspiration. You're not making this out of Legos. You're going to be making it out of tagboard or file folders. I have to be careful and say that I did have a sculpture student. I've had a couple of sculpture students over the years try to get credit for turning in things made out of Legos. First person who did that, I really hurt her feelings because I couldn't help myself. I started laughing. Not my best moment. But I wanted to show you, these are the file folders that I had. I'm going to work on building something over the weekend so you guys can see what I'm doing next time we get together. And I just grabbed 3 different colored ones. You can do different things, like maybe one of the students that had taken this course previously, they found a gingerbread house pattern online. You can find these kinds of things for making your own Christmas ornaments or Christmas cards that are kind of fun. She adapted it to look more like her grandpa's cabin that they would go and visit in the wilds of Idaho. Her grandpa's cabin was with a corrugated tin roof, so she made the roof out of aluminum foil that she had peeled one layer of cardboard off, so she got that corrugated feel of the cardboard. She pressed the foil down in there, so she got the corrugated feel of that, put it in there. For her chimney, she actually cut a hole through the roof, set a chimney on there, got some of the, that cotton type batting that you find in pillows. She kind of spread that out and pulled it out of the chimney. And then she found, she just got one of those little teeny electrical candle lights, put that underneath the chimney. So when she photographed it in a darkened room, the smoke was glowing. It looked incredibly cool. So I want you to exercise your creativity on this. Don't just whip something out in 25 minutes. Think about it. Remember, you're an artist. Might as well use it. you know, and a big part of the grade is making this so it's obviously well crafted and can stand, you know, or it can endure the struggles you're going to be put through as you photograph this. Now, if you're going to make one of your photos of this is going to be at burning, I would wait and do that at the very end. One person took a photo of it being run over by a car. Again, make sure that's the last photo you take. If that's the first one, you're going to be incredibly disappointed. So you know, you can do what you want. I just don't want you to be too sad. All right, I think we've covered most of what I want to cover, what I needed to cover right now. Go through, let's see, I'm going to share this again really quickly. We only have a couple more minutes.
Oh, I do have a question. Like, when should we be, so when are we going to be picking up those kits from the GT building?
They are being made right now. As soon as they are ready, I will let you know. And if anybody needs them to be mailed, I need to get the address right away. But as soon as those are done, I will tell you. That's why this first project is made with file folders and stuff you find at home, because you'll get all the materials in the kit within the next couple days. They'll be done in the next few days. But you can get started now with stuff just around your house. Does that answer?
Sorry.
What?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Would it be okay if a family member picks up a kit for me where I'm online and I have family that attends the school?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
The only restrictions are when you pick up the kits, if there is a class in session, the person can't come into the class and disrupt the, and pick up the kit while it's in session. But we have the kits in the workshop next to the classroom, so that should not be an issue. I say that because a couple of years ago, I had somebody was coming in and picking up a kit for their daughter, and while I was giving a lecture, she started trying to attract my attention. And when I asked her to wait a minute, she got indignant because she had traveled all this way. So I just reacted by completely ignoring her until I was done with what I was saying. And then I walked out into the hallway to talk to her. As long as whoever picks up the kit does not do that, you're fine. If anybody says, hey, what are you doing? They can say, oh, I'm just picking this up for my mom or whatever. And that's fine. But the classroom is right next to where the kids are. So like I said, there should not be an issue. Just please make sure when you do pick it up, you don't do anything to disrupt the class if a class is in session. Okay, I think that's appropriate. If that's okay. But yeah, Abby, there's absolutely no problem with you sending anybody to pick up the kit for you. Now, if we look at this module, this is kind of a rough outline for how most of these modules are. There's going to be, sometimes there's a short introduction. The reading either tells you what to read or gives you very precise instruction on what to read. The quiz is always and can always be open book. It tells you what chapters the quiz is on, and the material in the quiz is always taken directly from the chapter. If you get 50% on a quiz, that's not your final score. You can always retake it. I will usually give you a list of the answers you got wrong if you happen to get any answers wrong. Background, this background portion, this introduces you to a set of artists, and there's going to be between 4 and 8 artists for each of these modules, and each of these artists approach what we're talking about from a different perspective, from their own unique perspective. And you need to go through and watch all these videos that they're anywhere from 2 to 7 minutes long, with an average of about 4.5 minutes. Watch all the videos. The next thing is you're going to be writing about, it gives you specific prompts. This is a 3-paragraph reflection, and it tells you exactly what to write in each of the 3 paragraphs. Follow that. A lot of people have copied these prompts out, pasted them at the top of the paper, and then written following these prompts exactly. And that is perfectly fine to do. But when you write any of these artist reviews, you have to refer to the artists that were in the portion immediately previous to the artist review. So the background. The reason I need to point that out is because I have had several students and it's not all the students, it's usually one person out of a class of 25 or 30 will do it, where they will just pull their own artists out of the air to write the review. But who are the artists that you're writing the review on for each module? The artists that are within the module. There's going to be a background section that gives you the list of the artists and introduces you to the work. And then the review, you refer only to those artists within that module. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, excellent. So we talked about the quiz. Then this is the assignment. This is what an assignment will look like, where it gives you steps and then it gives you an approximation for the hours. And I want you to, on this, go to that. This is that website I showed you with the paper home, the animations showing the guys' little houses. And this shows you those 3 videos that I just shared with you. Watch those videos to generate ideas. And then I have photos of what other students have done. And I really love these houses. You can tell that these are not necessarily masterworks, but they are made intentionally and they are made very well to be fun while photographing. Like this one, you look at that green siding and there's a lot of fun lines there with shadows and stuff like that that change with every different perspective, every different placement of the home for photographing. I think that's really cool. So this person was heavily inspired by the one paper homes, the Charles Young homes. It almost looks very similar. This person had a lot of fun. Instead of using the tag board, they used regular printer paper, so you could see a lot of translucency through the paper. I think that turned out really well. And you notice they tried really hard not to do all the lines really super straight, so it has some fun energy to it. So that is showing you what the assignment is. And then after the assignment, you'll also notice, I mentioned that there's a work log in there. For this assignment, you'll need to take a photo of, well, we can talk about that. I think I'll actually erase that out so that you only need to include photos of the house, because I already have a space for you to get credit for submitting your work log. So I'm thinking I'm going to take that off. Then you also have the discussion. And let me share that with you really quick. I have a 1 minute. Are you guys okay if I go over about 2 or 3 minutes? That's okay. All right, I saw 2 thumbs, so I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, here, this is what the discussion will look like. Most discussions are going to be an opportunity for you just to post an image of the work that you did. And that's it. That's all you need to do. On this first discussion, what I want you to do is upload 5 images. Try to keep them with middle of the range resolution, not super low resolution, but not really high resolution. And also double check your submission that all the photos read in the correct orientation. Sometimes, especially if you are submitting from your phone, it will do HEIC files, which are not going to work. And also, if you're submitting directly from your phone, a lot of the times it will turn the images 90 degrees, which is no fun for anybody. So be careful of that. Watch out for that. Make sure that they're in the proper orientation. And then, in addition to that, you're also going to write feedback of 45 plus words on each of 3 of your fellow students' work. And this feedback is not going to be critical the way you're used to thinking. I want you to look at those 4 tools of artistic critique and consider those tools as you write your response. First 15 words, maybe 2 sentences. Did this involve the viewer? How did it involve the viewer? Second response, another 15 words. Did you capture, how did the person submitting that image that you're critiquing capture different responses to the house structure? And this could be as simple as you were really close up on most of these, which engaged me directly in being involved emotionally in the house. That may be a starting point for A. For B, it might be, this is absolutely fascinating how you're using the camera inside and outside the house for all the different photos that you're taking. I really particularly liked these two examples. And then because they maybe feel different things. And then in C, it's kind of like B, except you're talking about the technical differences for some of the different things that you observe. I'm not looking for any more than 15 words on each of these three answers, or A, B, and C. But you do need to have those 15 words for each of these three letters. And you need to do that for each of three of your fellow students. So you're only going to need to do it 3 times to get full credit for this portion of the process. Does that make sense to people? You're going to be engaging and responding to what other students have done. So generally, in this, the due date on that is going to have to be at least a few days after everybody turns in their houses. As you do that, if there's not a lot of people turning stuff in on time, then do that as soon as you can when there's at least 3 other students work online. Just to be mindful. And then this gives an example of the work log type of thing. Don't have to be super precise, but you do need to have some precision in there. And I also need you to have this typed out, not handwritten. And in order to get points, any points at all, you need to include a total amount of time. All right. Does this make sense to everybody? All right, good, excellent. All right, well, that's about all that I have for today. I'm so glad that you guys joined me. And I hope that you can keep and treasure the video recording of our session together forever and always. And it helps you to be a happy person on into your future life until you die of extreme old age in your 320s. So because I think that this is absolutely wonderful lecture, that time that we shared today. Oh, not even. But I will be, as soon as we're done, I will post this and start uploading it onto YouTube. We have new internet, so it only takes me 45 minutes as opposed to the 6 hours that it usually took. So you should be able to see a recording of this sometime tomorrow. And again, for full credit for attendance for today, you're going to include you're going to submit an image of the shape that you made, plus things that you've learned from this. And I'll enumerate that so that you can refer to that. All right. Any last questions before we part? Okay. I hope you guys have a safe and enjoyable week and weekend until I see you guys again on Tuesday. Good luck. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sure thing.